It is July the 10th. 117 days remain until the U.S. presidential elections, 40 days and 40 nights until the convening of the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. This is the morning, and Joe Biden's campaign is struggling. Donald Trump appeared at his golf club in Doral, and he spoke to the masses, those teeming, yearning souls cheering for more MAGA, more Donald, more insanity. Donald Trump didn't disappoint. He challenged, of course, Joe Biden to another debate, but also to a round of golf. He said, not incorrectly, that it would get better ratings than the Ryder Cup, even the Masters. He's probably not wrong, though I suspect President Biden is unlikely to accept the offer as the world tilts ever more closely to a third world war. Let's look at some of the images from around the world. Here is Modi in India hugging Vladimir Putin. The Saudis have issued a threat of sorts. They've made clear to the G7 countries that offloading Russia's trapped assets to Ukraine isn't an option. All around the world order that came to be in the aftermath of the Second World War, humanity's most significant event, is collapsing. In Washington, D.C., the NATO leaders, the members of the most powerful military alliance in world history, are gathered, talking about our collective security. This alliance has come to be at the heart of the choice of the campaign in 2024. Donald Trump hates it. He's against it. He believes that a collective of the most technologically advanced military and scientific powers on Earth somehow make us weaker. That's because he's stupid, but that's been evident for a really long time. And so it is this week in Washington that President Biden leads the NATO summit with the great question hanging in the air. Will he be able to serve for 4 more years? ABC News journalist and anchorman George Stephanopoulos, caught in a secret recording, says no. This is obvious to a great many Americans. The great likelihood is that the election will end in a landslide. Let's listen to the words of Colorado Senator, Democrat Michael Bennet.
Donald Trump is on track, I think, to win this election and maybe win it by a landslide and take with him the Senate and the House. And so for me, this isn't a question about polling. It's not a question about politics. It's a moral question about the future of our country.
Let me put the words up. He's not calling for the president to step aside. He's simply now acknowledging the quiet part out loud. He's saying that President Biden will lose this election and in a landslide, and that we have to prepare for the terrible thing that comes behind it. We have come to an awful hour. And now that question of how would Democrats react in a situation where a version of their Trump fell from the sky and faced the Democratic Party with a tough and profound question. What would they do? Well, now we know. And the American people see it. 4 years from now, Trump is likely to be president, should Joe Biden stay in the race. What's coming down the road is perfectly clear. Democratic Party stands 40 days away from the convening of a convention. In its ultimate moment, will nominate Joe Biden for another 4 years, and then he will take to the stage in a nominating speech. Democrats should visualize that moment. What will he say? How will the American people respond? Because the fact is, right now, today, the president is behind. He is losing. He's losing the popular vote for the first time since Donald Trump is in the race in 9 years. He's ahead in the popular vote, and by a lot. And he's blowing away President Biden in the electoral vote, winning all of the swing states, and then some new ones that have come into play, all of the ones that the president won in 2020. The fact of the matter is, all this distance away, which will pass quickly, the result is coming into focus, and it will be a tragic one for America and for a young generation that should be given some consideration. The American people owe Joe Biden nothing. Joe Biden owes the American people. And if you are to talk about loyalty, the loyalty that matters is singular. It is to the nation, to the country, not to a party, not to a man, and not to a nominee. This is a disastrous moment, tragic one, a profoundly depressing one. And yet, even in these bleak moments, we have to have optimism and faith that things will get better, that the dawn will break soon. And it will, as it has and will again. There will be a period of renewal and vigor in America ahead. But now, 40 days from the convening of the Democratic National Convention, everything is in the air. The nation awaits for Donald Trump's vice presidential pick, perhaps a golf match even bigger than the Masters. And it waits for a decision from the president 40 days out as the NATO allies gather in Washington with an eye towards Russia and China and Iran and North Korea. This new axis rising that seeks to impose a new model with an old plan. Believers in human slavery are ascendant against the nations and the civilizations who are steeped in the cause of human liberty. This contest, it seems, is an enduring one. And it seems like this generation of Americans will be tested. President Biden, 40 days from his convention, is adrift and lost, losing the election with no plan discernible about how to get up off the mat, complaining about the media, complaining about your opponent, whining and crying and lying in the fetal position while demanding an entitlement is not a political strategy against Donald Trump. It's a suicide pact. 120 days from now, the smoke will be clearing, and Donald Trump is online, on target to be 47th president of the United States. And that will bring a tragedy to all of the world. But right now, there is still time. This is The Warning. I'm Steve Schmidt. This is The Warning, and I invite you to subscribe on our Substack, on our YouTube channel. Follow us. Welcome to the community.